Down live. Oh, there it is.
Ladies and gentlemen, this contest set for one fall is for the WWE Championship.
Life moves pretty fast. You don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it.
Welcome to Around the Turnbuckle, the Big Albowski. That guy to my immediate on your screen would be your right, but my left is the Professor Keith, as always. And joining us is Miguel Del Barrio.
What's going on, guys? How are you? Thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you for coming.
Absolutely our pleasure, my man. Now, for those who know you from your other name,
Yeah.
can we mention? Are we allowed to mention that?
Yeah, you might as well. You know,
Yeah. So I mean, some of you might know him as Tiger Vulcan, but he also owns Frontier Professional Wrestling. And before we talk about how you got started in the business, Miguel, I want you to talk about right now Frontier Professional Wrestling. What's that? How did that start for you, and what you got going on there?
So you know what? So Frontier Pro Wrestling, man, like we'll get into that, but like I've been doing this for 10 years, man, and I've seen so many guys and I've been on the road with so many guys that, you know, in my opinion, right? And it's not a shot to any promoter or anything like that, but there was just guys that I saw raw talent in, like legitimate talent. And the thing is if you're the guy getting picked last for the football team and you're the best player, but not the favorite in the group, you're not always going to be able to show how great you run or how great you catch a ball. So, you know, Frontier came to actually be my fiance's idea. And Melody, you know, said, you know, babe, let's start our own thing and give that opportunity. Because I've always been someone that in the ring, I try to not just put myself over or anything like that. It's always like, hey, man, what can we do together to leave these guys wanting to come back to this again? Not just me, because I don't benefit in that ring if you're not benefiting. So when that all came to be, we started Frontier, and we made it so that everybody on our roster was someone from our, you know, long road and journey that we've been on, and giving them that opportunity to shine. And they've done nothing but shine since we started. So
that's awesome. And where do you guys run shows at? Like,
so
what territory are you at?
We're based in the Poconos in Pennsylvania. We're running out of Long Pond, Pennsylvania right now. I'm trying to make my way back home towards Stroudsburg, which is only like 20 minutes taking the highway towards that. It's just still coming off of COVID and people being wary of renting and coming out to shows. It's just not easy, but we'll get there. You know, the dream's alive, so we're going to keep working.
That's not too far away from me, Professor. I live in the shadow of the Pocono Mountains called Palmerton, PA.
Oh, there it is. Oh, you're there.
I'm right there, brother. So yeah, you gotta let me know. I gotta catch a show.
Absolutely, brother. Anytime.
All right, so let's go back to the beginning.
All right.
10 years ago, or before that even, you fell in love with this business because you would not be talking to me right now if you didn't fall in love with this business.
Correct.
So what made that happen for you? When did you fall in love with professional wrestling? And then tell us how you got started.
So my dad was in the business, and so was my grandfather, who I didn't get to meet. He had passed away when he was my stepdad, but came into my life, my real dad to me. When he came into my life, my grandpa had already passed away when he was a kid, but my dad was actually a pro wrestler in Puerto Rico. So, you know, to me at first, when he first came into me and my mom and my brother who came along later on, like, it wasn't always there. It wasn't always something I wanted to do. I hit around 8, 9 years old, and I lost my dad at 11 years old, which then something at that point snapped. And I was like, you know what? My dad would want me to keep going about what he started. So from then on, it was wrestling this, wrestling that. My mom was so worried. To this day, doesn't come watch my matches sometimes. I'm afraid something's gonna happen. But she knows that I do it for my pops. You know, I do it for everybody around me and my family now. My girls are training, my daughters, so they're well on their way as well. But you know, it really started for me. My dad's best friend back in the day, and like, there's photos to prove it. And I tell everybody this story because this is my journey. And if I can give a little spark to anybody else to continue to do it, then I'm doing my job in the business. My dad was very close with Eddie Guerrero before he passed.
Oh, cool.
So when Eddie first came over from WCW to WWE, and Vince would be at the Garden, Eddie would call my dad up and be like, "Hey man, I know we lived in Jersey at the time in Plainfield." He said, "Hey man, you mind if I just bunk there for the night? Because you know I don't really want to pay for a hotel out in New York. It's a lot more expensive to work the Garden for Vince." At this time, he wasn't making the money yet, just like that, cruiserweight. So he did, and I grew up knowing Eddie as, you know, like Uncle Eddie, you know,
Nice.
over every very often. And, you know, I have a picture of me and my dad on a porch like this, and me and Eddie just talking. And to me, it was like, "Hey, Uncle Eddie." And he was like, "Hey, little guy," you know, that was it. But, you know, when I really got into it, I lost my dad and Eddie 5 months from each other in the same year.
Wow.
So, big blow to me. I forgot to train with Eddie. That was always a talk. Like, "Hey man, I'll take you in if your dad doesn't want to train you," you know, just joking around. And now, you know, even to this moment, I use the frog splash. It pays homage to Eddie. The tiger mask is there because it pays homage to Eddie. Like, I do a lot of it for Eddie and my dad. But that's where it started, man. Was just the love of my dad and Eddie and the friendship they had and all the stories I heard when I was a kid.
Keith, we've been doing this now for 2 years. We have interviewed over 100 wrestlers, and I swear, the most name brought up as an influence is Eddie Guerrero. Am I wrong, Keith, in saying
No,
that?
absolutely. Eddie is a huge influence on this generation, which I think is great because I think a lot of it is about who inspired you to do it. Kind of tells a lot about what your journey is going to be. And I love what you're talking about with your promotion and what you're doing, because I think it's so important that, and I want to say this correctly because I don't want to sound demeaning, but I really think there need to be promotions out there, sort of like how you have the minor leagues in baseball, where, like, okay, you have the place you can go if it's the instructional league to start to figure out how to do it. Then in the next level, then the next level, and you can sort of work your way up to, if you really want to do it, getting to that main show, because wrestling doesn't really have kind of that straight path or that way to do it, kind of like baseball does. It's almost like football, where it's like, have a really good year and have somebody see it.
Right.
But I mean, even football is really more regulated because you have college. You can go to college, you can do college ball, you can get on the college teams and get noticed. Wrestling is really purely the right guy comes to the right show that has the right clout of the right person's ear, and that's great and all, but that's kind of leads to, too, like you're talking about, you know, you only get that, say, less than 10% that are going to get to the show, and everybody just kind of assumes, well, then that must be the best of the best. And it's like, but is it though? Or is that just the best of what those scouts saw? Because nobody can be everywhere. No matter how good your scouting department is, nobody can be everywhere. There's got to be guys that are slipping through the cracks just from geography or not having the right opportunities.
Right. I think that you know, and I tell my guys all the time, because I still wrestle on my own shows. I'm trying to stay. I don't, you know, and this is a little bit of, you know, behind the scenes stuff, you know.
Yeah.
Like I tell my guys, you know, my champion, you know, my heavyweight champion the other day, he said, you know, "What's up, Pops? Like, why don't you put up on?" I don't need to. Why do I need to be on the poster? Everybody, I wrestle on the card, and I make sure I pay the bills of the transportation of the ring, because your home. This is where I want your craft. If I wanted to still be putting on the posters or not, because there's a lot of guys, like I said, it is what it is. There's no offense to motor. There's a lot of guys that slept on me. You know, there's a lot of guys that, no matter how much work I did being from 3 hours away, or no matter how much effort I put in, I always got put on the, the bottom of the totem pole, and that's okay. You pay your dues in this business. But, then there was another guy 3 hours or 4 hours from there in the other direction that said, "Hey, kid, you sold 20 tickets. Come on down." And that was it. And, I'll shout out his name any day. Sean Hardy in Delaware on CW, brother. If it wasn't for him,
Nice.
man, I wouldn't be here at all. He took this no name kid when everybody else was, kind of just saying no, and saw the hard work that I put in. I'm 3 hours away from him, and I still brought people to his show. He came into my town, I a show, and that's what my guys are trying to teach my guys too. Now they're getting that spotlight, and it's like, okay, guys, you guys wanted the spot, here it is, but now you gotta show why you're here, why you're part of my roster now. Now show why people should come. Don't prove it to me. You already proved it to me. Prove it to them, because if they're not coming to sit down to watch, man, why are you here? There's someone that always work.
I got some comments here rolling in. David Motorman's here, says, "Hi guys, welcome back. We were on a 1 week hiatus there, me and the professor. Now let's talk some wrestling."
Absolutely.
Steven Strick says, "Real stories equals great conversation."
Absolutely.
Absolutely. That's what we love to hear. So, how old were you when you first actually started to learn to do this, and who were your trainers? You mentioned that you had lost Eddie and your father in the same year. So then how old were you when you actually, sought out training, and who trained you?
So I went 16 years old. There was I grew up here in Strasburg, Pennsylvania, in the Poconos. There was a guy named Ralph Ray, and he deserves his credit as well. There's some things that were said here or there that has nothing to do with me. But Ralph Ray knew that I was a fanatic. I grew up watching RPWF in the Poconos, going to the local roller rink, early to signature guys like Justin Credible, and getting guys like he had Kip James, Billy Gunn come to his show. He had Voodoo Kin Mafia at his, it was very I was very lucky, and I didn't, I try to teach my daughters now, you got to use what you can. It's not you being greedy, it's just you using what it's at your disposal. At the time, again, I had my dad and Eddie's name behind me, but at that young age I didn't know what that meant. So when I had guys like I love him to death, and I talk to him here and there again, like Boogeyman or Justin Credible, I see him at shows and I tell him, like, "Yo, Jay, this all started with you punching." And he laughs. And, "Oh, brother, I love you, man. I always love you. And I love him to death. He helped train me. I had seminars with guys like Boogeyman and Justin Credible, and later on I met his Justin. Justin was close friends with guys like H.C. Loke from ECW back in the day. And I was just fortunate that because people knew my family, my dad and Eddie, and they saw the kid that came to the show all the time, just there, persistent. They were like, "You know what, kid? Let me show you this real quick," and that's where it all started, man. 16 years old, I was taking bumps in the backyard in a pro wrestling ring that was stiff as a board.
Oh,
no give, but you know what? It made me what I am today, and there's no excuses for anybody that trains under me now.
absolutely. You can't deny that. If you you wouldn't ask them to go through anything that you didn't already go through, or worse. So tell us the origin of, because I know you had mentioned to me that Miguel Del Barrio is who you started wrestling as. So tell me how that transitioned to Tiger Vulcan. Where did Tiger Vulcan come from? You mentioned the tiger mask as a tribute to Eddie, but tell me about that character and where did it come from out of you?
So when I was 16, I wrestled bumps and did that. Unfortunately, RPWF, after a certain amount of time of doing shows, when I was training with them, I don't know if there was a falling out with the venue that we're at that they always ran at, that it kind of put them on a stop, and then they decided to kind of just call it a day and just pick up shop. So that kind of left me as a Roman little figure here, and I'll give credit where credit's due. Everybody that knows me knows that I will never badmouth anybody. I will respect who deserves the credit when it comes to me. I can't speak for anybody else. I had a friend in high school, you guys probably know his name too. His name's Tim Theory. He lives in the same area as me. We went to high school together. Tim early on. You know, I wasn't the big kid at times, and real stories make real good conversation. Like,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, I was a kid that was getting picked on in school. I didn't know how to defend myself when I was a young kid. And then there was big old Tim Theory, man. He always made sure people didn't pick on me. So after that whole thing with RPWF, you know, I turned 18 years old where I could legally have matches. And Tim said, "Hey, man, are you still wanting to do that wrestling?" And I was like, "Yeah, brother, I'd really like it." Not short after that, Tim brought me down to ECPW to train with Gino Caruso. And then that's where everything really started getting rolling for me. When they asked me, you know, what I wanted as a character, I didn't really know where to go with it. I knew that I wanted Del Barrio to be the last name of what I chose because that was the name that my dad used. He was Mario Del Barrio Ponte in Puerto Rico, and my grandfather was Alfonso Del Barrio Ponte. So I knew that's what I wanted to do. And when I got, like, you know, in your head, you know, something works, and in your head, you're like this big superstar at WrestleMania, and you're like,
Right.
Shortly enough after that, I saw guys like, you know, and I'll shout him out, like Frankie Flo, who had this physique of a gladiator. And then I look at myself and I'm like, what am I doing here? Little scrawny kid that didn't have a name, that people at the first show I did was a battle royal for ECPW, and I was stressed in the back. Or I knew it was coming up, so I was stressing. I said, what can I do to make myself pop out of everybody else that's looking for an opportunity? So
Right.
the general consensus was I was watching old Eddie tape. I wanted to see what he did, and I always study. To this day, I still learn.
Yeah.
I said, you know what? I'll try to keep the name somehow. I'll try to take some of it. I took the mask and I put that on. Gino said it was all good. Go for it. And I put it on. The problem was there was no damn name. So at that point, here I am, this guy with a mask and no name, and debuting now with no name, because now I have no name. There was a gentleman at ECPW who I got a little bit of heat from on my first day. Someone opened the curtain. He goes, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "Getting ready for my match, man." He goes, "Okay, well, you're not doing it." I'm like, "What do you mean? You're not going out there? You know why? Because you see what you're wearing? Look in the damn ring." Open the curtain. Of course, first show. So I know all the students that I was training with, but I didn't know the top guys, you know, because
Right.
the top guys in ECPW had their own little thing. They were talking about what they're doing next. They're in storylines, so they're planning ahead. They don't have time for guys like me at that moment, right?
Yeah.
So I open the curtain, and who's sitting there is an amazing superstar who I love to this day, and thank you to him for everything he's done for me, is Saber Gold, a golden tiger mask. So he goes, "You can't go out there because that guy already has a mask. That's disrespectful." I'm like, "Great. First show, no name, new gimmick, no idea what the fuck I'm doing wrong." So I find it rightfully so. You know, I'm sitting there. Here comes Saber. Looks right at me, and his stuff's right next to me. I look over and I'm like, "Okay." So I thought I was gonna get chewed out, and Saber goes, "Hey man, nice mask, kid. Real cool. I like the color." I'm like, "Hey, man, if I disrespected you, I'm really sorry. It wasn't my intention. This is just what I had." He goes, "What do you mean disrespecting me? I think it's cool, man. It's awesome." And he goes, "You have a name?" I'm like, "No, that is literally my name." "Okay, where are you from? What's your heritage?" I'm like, "Ecuador." He goes, "Okay, so you're Spanish, obviously." "Yeah." He goes, "Okay, there's a lot of volcanoes in Ecuador." I'm like, "Yeah, that's one of the main attractions in Ecuador." "Okay." He goes, "Guess what? You're now Ecuador's main attraction. You're now going to be called Tigre Bull." Boom. That was it. For the next years after that, that's all I went by was the name that Saber Gold gave me. So I thank him for all that too, man, because I had no idea where to go with it.
And that's a great story because, you know, it could have easily gone the other way where the wrong guy walks up to you, looks at the gimmick, and comes up with something completely stupid, and you're stuck with it. I mean, there's so many stories that guys will write in books and whatnot. I think Steve Austin said Dutch Mantel named him because Steve Austin walked up to him and goes, "What's your name?" "I don't know." "What's your gimmick?" "I don't know." "Well, what's your real name?" "Steve Williams." "Well, you can't use that. There's already Dr. Death. So, where are you from?" "I'm from around Austin." "Okay, you're Steve Austin. Good, go. Get away from me now." So it could have gone like that. I mean, it worked out okay for him in the end. I think he made something of himself, but
Right.
that's cool that you went from a moment of like, I have to work, but I have no idea what I'm doing, and a veteran came by and A, lifted you up like that, and then also B, gave you something that you could run with as long as you wanted to run with it, because not only did you have a name now you had a story to tell with the name.
Correct. And like I said, I tell everybody every day, when everybody's like, like I have new guys and students now, they're like, and I don't know what to do. And I'm like, that's okay. The thing is, you're lying to me because you know what you want to do. And unless you tell me what your idea is, I can't tell you whether it's a good idea or not. If it's a good idea in your mind, let's try it. If it works, fine. I'm not in WWE or AEW, so I can't tell you it's going to make you millions of dollars. It may or may not, but if we don't try, most of the shots you take have to make it in. But if you don't take them, it's never going to work out. So I tell me your idea. If it works, let's run with it. If it doesn't, I will help you adjust, or we'll think of something new with your permission. But at the end of the day, I don't want anybody's idea to ever fall short, because Sabre Gold didn't have to give me a chance.
This is what I love, Keith, about having guys like Miguel here who have been doing this a while, and in everything he just said, if a wrestler's out there who's young and just starting and he's listening to this and watching this, I hope they're taking notes while he's talking. You know what I'm saying? Because in that was a whole bunch of nuggets, right, Keith, of what you should be doing, what you shouldn't be doing. I mean, that's the cool part of having guys like Miguel on it who've been doing it a while. But back to the beginning, like I said. So you got started, 18 years old. You start wrestling. The Tiger Vulcan thing began, and you're off and running. Now, did you strictly stay in that area? Did you branch out? And on top of that, did you have aspirations of, like a lot of guys do in the beginning, of doing this for a living?
So with that, I stayed in ECPW. I mainly try to make my name there. I think I hit the best part that I could in ECPW. And again, I always tell everybody, and everybody comes down on me for saying it to me, I will always say that I'm bottom of the totem pole. And here's why. It's not because I believe that I have absolutely nothing to offer. I refuse to live in a world where I forget where I come from. Right. And if I keep that mindset, I will never put myself above anybody else. I will never put myself lower than anybody else. I just know that we're on the same playing field, but it doesn't let my head go into ego, because let's be honest, there's some egos out there, man. Yeah. There's a lot of egos everywhere. Some good, some bad. I'm not talking about anybody. I'm just real. And that's why I'm loved the way I am. So if I keep my ego in check, then there's no room for drama with me or anybody else. So with ECPW, I got as far as I could. You got to know when you cut losses. I said, you know what? I'm going to try to find another way of going about it. They were nice enough to put me up a few times. I got to wrestle in Stroudsburg, which is like my hometown to me, and they gave me opportunity, but I wanted a little bit more. And I don't mean to sound greedy, but I just wanted to have like that 5-star match that I was proud of. I wanted to be part of a storyline that I could be in with my best friend and be a part of. But I just, it didn't happen then, and that's okay. Maybe it just wasn't the right place at the right time. Then I met Sean Hardy doing a co-joint show with ECPW, and from the moment that I sold I think it wasn't even all that crazy. It was like 25 tickets I had sold to his show. And I remember when he came in, he said, "Hey guys, this is, Tigre. Okay, anybody know him in here?" Raise their hand, because at that time I'd never wrestled for 1CW. He goes, "Okay, well, this is what we're doing. He's the reason that he's what we should all be striving to be." Because he came into my town from Delaware, which he used to be from. I sold him 25 tickets, and he said, "Hey, kid, you're in the championship match tonight." As I was going to go to the curtain, he goes, "Go out there and have fun." And I did, and I ended up coming home with the 1CW Pride Championship that night. Wow. I worked for him. So, it was a blessing, and that's why I continue to work hard. And I tell my guys, listen, man, sometimes you just got to sell tickets. It sucks, and it's hard sometimes, because you always get that, "Hey, man, I'll be at your show. I'm there to support you. I'm there for you, man." Yes. Then no one shows up.
Right. And that's the thing. Like from Keith and I doing this, we've met all different types and all different levels and all different guys that have just started for a couple months and are, still kind of green or whatever. And then guys who've been doing it for 10 years, guys who've been doing it for 20 years. And same rings true for all those guys. If you're not selling tickets, if you're not putting butts in the seats, you're doing something wrong and you need to figure out what that is. And then you need to get to that point to where, it's not just like you said, your friends are all saying to, and listen, we all have friends, but our friends might say, yeah, man, I'm behind you, I'm behind you, I'm behind you. But sometimes life gets in the way. They can't always be there for you. That's the way it is. What you need is to have the people who love coming to see these shows. You're one of the reasons why. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Because every independent show Keith and I go and visit, you have a set group of people who go to every show because they love the product. They love the product. There might be 2 or 3 main guys that they come because they know they're on the card, so they're going to come and they're going to come see them perform, whatever. But if you're young and you're getting into this business, you need to be one of those guys.
Yep.
Right? And even if AEW or Impact or WWE is the goal down the road, you got to start somewhere.
Absolutely.
If you're not putting butts in the seats when you first get started, you ain't going to make people tuning in on every week on Wednesday or Thursday or Friday or whatever day of the week, Monday, to watch you.
Correct.
So it starts somewhere.
Absolutely.
So it's great to hear you say that because.
And I love what you're talking about too. About if you have to get out there and hand sell tickets, break the ring down, help set the ring up, learn every aspect of it because everybody's important. There's nothing worse than when I hear stories, and thankfully we don't hear about it from any of our group. But you hear about the guys that are like being assholes to the ring crew or being assholes to the ticket sellers, and it's like, dude, that you don't have your canvas, you don't have your art supplies to do your art without those people. Correct. And I think it's so important that people get their hands dirty and understand what that is, understand what goes into setting it up. And a lot of the companies that I've been to that we've associated ourselves with, what I love is almost every wrestler from the main event on down, when the show is over, I see them out there breaking down the rings or setting the rings up.
How it should be. 100%. Yep. Like I said, 10 years in, I own my own thing. I own my own ring. I paid for the venues to have these great shows. I'm there every single time, setting up, taking apart, putting it into the U-Haul, taking it off the U-Haul every time. I tell my students all the time, man, I don't even want you in the ring if your mindset isn't, I have to learn how to build a ring. If you don't know how to build a ring and you think you're going to sell tickets and just be main event right away and then go, hey, I'm not helping because I'm main event. I don't give a damn if you're main event. Because at the end of the day, you can be a main event player and help with the ring and put the ring away. And guess what? If you're selling 20 tickets being ring crew, a wrestler on the ring crew, and you're selling more tickets than my main event guy, where's the decision making in that? Where's
exactly?
It's common sense. And I think a lot of people lose. Like I said, I don't talk about anybody in the wrong way. But again, I don't allow my ego get out of check. So I always know that my guys are my guys. We're all family in Frontier. We're family and we make this rock. We help each other. If there's something, advice that we can give to each other of matches or how to conduct ourselves, then that's just what families do. There's always differences, but it is what it is.
And I mean, that's leadership too, right? I mean, that's showing by example. You don't yell at everybody. You don't tell everybody what to do. I'm a manager at my job, and what I always try to do with my people is like, you're going to see me setting the example that I want. You're going to see me doing the work at the level that I want the work done at. Mm-hmm. And there's going to be some people that maybe that has to be pointed out to them. There's going to be other people that are going to go, I see what he's doing. Okay, I'm just going to go along and I'm going to do it. Because you have to, especially in wrestling, because wrestling is so collaborative. It takes 2 to tango in a match, and it takes the entire card to make a show. It takes everybody from the top to the bottom. Everybody's important. Everybody's got something to contribute to that show.
And,
All right,
and I,
so
that, go ahead. Sorry, buddy.
no, go ahead, man.
Like I said, I try to tell everybody that too. Like there's been like not to throw anything out there, and I'm not throwing names out there, but there's been a couple people that I've told, hey man, we don't need you. It's okay. You know why? Because I've seen them sit in the back, and I thought they were a different type of person, and they go back there and they go snarking at the curtain at the guy that went before him, and I'm like, what are you doing? I'm like, you gotta remember, at some point, somewhere, what you're doing right now, someone did to you, and you didn't appreciate it. So the next show I had, when I told them we don't need them anymore, was I said, you know what? We're gonna do Boss Man versus that guy you were making fun of last month. We had an amazing match, and now he's over in our company.
There you go.
You don't you can't expect to talk smack and then not have the boss see you and think that they're not gonna hold you accountable.
Yeah.
So did you have aspirations of making it in professional wrestling before you realized that, and now doing what you're doing now with Frontier?
So when I was a kid, that was all I dreamed about every single day. My dad unfortunately didn't get to the point where he wanted to get, because he was taken away. Eddie was at his prime when he fell short, when it was time for him to go and watch over us all. But my dream was always make it to WWE. To this day, it's still, if AEW calls, I'd probably go. But my thing is this: I have a little guy. He's 3 years old, and then I have a 12-year-old, and a 16-year-old, and I have an older daughter as well. Like you hear the stories from the greats. Shawn Michaels went through it. I think it was Shawn. I think it was Rick. They said, I was on the road most of my life, and then when I got home, when it was all over, I had kids that didn't even know me.
Right.
That as a young kid, I remember hearing that. And, my daughters are like everything to me. My son is everything to me. I can't imagine a life where I don't get to see them every day. It's taking them to school. It's going through the headaches of girls growing up and thinking they know everything. It's my little guy temper tantrums growing up. Like there's ups and downs in parenthood. And if I'm on the road, I can't enjoy all of that, But, my daughter she was 13 years old when she picked this up. She's 16 now, and she's killing it. That's awesome. She had an interaction with Maven, who said, you're going to be something one day. And now she's working harder than ever. When I started Frontier, and I told my roster, and this is a true story, you can ask any of them, I told them, I don't care if I get a call. From here on out, I don't care if I don't ever get a call, because I get to put these shows on every single month with my family. That's one. I get to put on these shows for the great people that I grew up watching wrestling with and watching. And number three is, as long as you guys stay humble, like I have my whole career, and show me that you guys want to be here, all I need is one day Skylar Kincaid, Luca Mancini, Sean L. Ray go to AEW or WWE, and they go have a similar interview like this, maybe with Stone Cold on Broken Skull, and they go, hey man, how did you get into it? How did you get here? They go, you know what? There was one guy, the guy, Miguel Del Barrio.
And they drop your name,
there. That'll be all I need right there, because then, again, I don't just live this in wrestling. I live this in life. If I don't go out there and make a positive influence on anybody's life, if I can't do that once a day, at least for one person, I'm not doing my job as a human being. And Frontier Pro Wrestling has given me the opportunity to be in fans' lives and make them happy and send them home happy, and all give opportunities to guys that have worked their butts off for so long that haven't gotten an opportunity.
Dude, that was one of the greatest things I've ever heard on this show.
Yeah.
Because we don't know each other. We just met. We friended each other on Facebook a while back. Sometimes I see some of your stuff and I like it or I share it, and then because that's what we do.
Yeah.
On this, we want this show to be the show that, at least in Pennsylvania, shares independent wrestling and has guys on to tell their stories, whether it's a guy who's been in there for 6 months to a year, or a guy like yourself who has been doing it for 10 years, is still doing it, but also has your own thing going, and bringing guys up and bringing young men and women up, and just trying to make wrestling a better place. than it is, and it's awesome. And my point to all that was we've just met you, and in the course of 35 minutes, like I see what kind of man you are.
Thanks,
You're
man.
a good, you're humble. You're a good father. You're a good father. You're a good person, and you care about everybody else around you more than yourself.
Absolutely. And I tell them,
And that's what I was taught by my father. I am a father of five. So I mean, I know where you come from. I got two girls. Okay, one of them's 10, one of them's 6 or 5 going on 15, and
Mm.
so yeah, believe me. But it's great hearing these stories. But it's great. Keith and I always love hearing wrestling stories. Keith and I always love hearing how you came up through the business. What are you doing with the business, and what do you want to do with the business in the future? But when we hear what everything you just said about the emotional side of it, about what you know, what you're trying to do, what you do for everybody else, what you do for your guys and girls, that you'd be more excited if you heard one of your guys or girls talking on Stone Cold,
absolutely.
Broken Skull sessions about Miguel Del Barrio, or and yeah, and yes, I get it. I get that the ultimate thrill for you now. That,
Absolutely.
that's awesome.
And
Is
and my thing is too, like you just said, I don't know if you guys have heard of Kings and Queens. They kind of do rankings for this East Coast kind of wrestler. They just came out for their last. I think I was at the very bottom of the top 100, but my heavyweight champion was like number 7, ready for their contenders. I think I had a guy on 15 and 25. I was sitting there, little kid. I'm like, that's right. That's how we do. And that to me, like I tell them, you guys helped me put on my show. But at the end of the day, I promise you guys that I will stop getting paid long before any of them do, because that is what you do as a leader. And like, I wish, and again, I'm not speaking ill, I wish more promoters thought,
Yeah.
I guess,
Yeah.
way, because everybody on your roster should have a place. And even if it is that one kid like me that just didn't know what to do, that should be your next guy. That should be your next guy. And my goal, like you said, now I get a thrill from seeing my guys on any list. But my goal, like my whole thing is, like, I could break, oh, God forbid, knock on wood here. I could get into an accident tomorrow and maybe break a leg, and I can never wrestle again because of the
Right.
surgery to be done. That's it. That's the tale of Miguel Del Barrio. It ends right there. But that's not what I chose to do when I had an opportunity to start my own thing.
Right.
If my career ends tomorrow and all I can do is either be with crutches or sit on the sideline on Frontier Pro shows when I put them on, it's not over there. Miguel Del Barrio brought guys up like Luca Mancini, who's killing it and around everywhere. They brought up guys like Skylar Kincaid, who is now the Frontier Pro Wrestling Heavyweight Champion. I've tagged up guys like Michael Blade, who is killing it in ECPW. Shout outs to him, killing it down there. Because when me and him were tagging up, we were nobody. Now he's on the damn poster. Absolutely thrilled about that.
Right.
Anybody that I've influenced that can mention my name somewhere along the line, that's what continues my name. I'll always be talked about.
It's awesome. Those two gentlemen that you have mentioned, I know who they are, and that, you know what I'm saying. Like, to me, when it's independent wrestling and I'm getting to know, I getting to know the territories in PA. Keith and I, Keith lives in Jersey. I live in PA, but we're both Jersey boys, just like you. So yeah. So, but anyway, I'm in PA, and so Keith and I hit like Quakertown a lot because it's close. We follow Allentown. Keith has a friend in Allentown. I know some people from Allentown that do stuff down in Allentown. We've branched out towards Harrisburg. We've branched out here, there, and everywhere. Outbreak Wrestling in Hamburg and things like that. So it's neat to hear about Frontier. And when you mention those two guys' names that you just talked about, Skylar Kincaid, Michael Blade, I've heard of both of them. So you're doing something right.
Thanks.
You know what I'm saying? And that's the good thing. Like, we hear these names, and like, I'll hear a name and I'll say, oh, well, who's that guy? So somebody will tell me about him. Or I hear another name and I say, oh, I know that guy.
Yeah.
That's the thing. That's the difference. In independent wrestling, that's the thing. If you've been heard of one way or another, then you're doing something right, you know?
Right.
Not saying those guys are household names yet, but I'm not saying that they won't be
Yeah.
someday down the road.
Absolutely.
You know, that'd be
Adam Page once upon a time was a guy wrestling in a barn in North Carolina in front of like 5 people.
see?
One of my daughter's favorite and killing in AW.
That's awesome. So tell us now where we can find Frontier.
We have a Twitter page. We have a Facebook page. We're all over Facebook mostly. And Instagram too. You know, if you guys just type in Frontier Pro Wrestling, there'll be links there to our like Cash App to purchase tickets. We'll hold them for you at the door. We have Eventbrite on certain ones that we kind of think that are a little bit bigger in caliber. You know, like our last show, we crowned our first heavyweight, which was Skylar Kincaid. You know, we're all over social media. If you look us up or even just hit us up on Google, it'll give you some link to be able to communicate with me, you know?
Do you have any events coming up?
I have one on the 4th this upcoming month. I got Skylar set for a really good match. I'm involved in a scramble match and with guys like great like that. Like that's also like Frontier's giving me an opportunity more now so to have like bigger names. Like I grew up watching Turner from Blue and Gold, who's a very successful tag team. And he's been at my shows the last 3 shows that I've had. To me, I used to watch Turner and I used to go, damn, I would love to be in the ring with him. And just talk to him and pick his brain.
Yeah.
Now on my card, and when I talked to him about it, it was, yeah, brother, let's do it. Why not? Something that I would have never been able to do if I hadn't just taken that leap of faith and said, and listened to my fiance and just did our own thing.
So that's Saturday, June 4th?
Saturday, June 4th. Yep, we'll be in Long Pond, Pennsylvania.
There it is. Follow them everywhere. Check it out. If you have a poster and you throw it out there, I'll put it all on our Around the Turnbuckle and 2M1L Media feeds, my brother.
Thank you. Man.
Yeah, we do that. Keith does that as well. Keith, back then you were saying something, Keith, and we both kind of went on a back and forth there. You had something going, Keith?
I'm trying to remember what I was going to say.
I
know I like the idea about the list where you're like at the bottom because it just triggered in my head, like, because I'm a history guy. Any kind of history, I love it, and I like my mind picks up these like silly little things, and it made me think back to this pirate that's kind of famous, but he's famous for being like the worst pirate, right. Calico Jack Rackham. And everybody would be like, "That's got to be the worst pirate ever," and he would just kind of retort with, "But you have heard of me,"
like Captain Jack Sparrow.
Yeah, that's where he stole it from. Was Jack Rackham.
Yeah. And that's just it, and again, I say it all the time because I know there's people out there that don't agree with my viewpoints. They think I'm doing it the wrong way. They think I'm killing wrestling because it's not the same way that was run by the oldies. Listen, I'm not oldie. If I would have had it my way, I probably would have been with Uncle Eddie in WWE, and we wouldn't, none of that doubt would be coming up, But I have this new tag team that started with us. They come from Sparta, New Jersey, and at first they were very timid, and you could tell they'd hide out. That I booked them because through somebody else, and they said to bring them on, and I brought them on. They'd come and do ring crew. They'd come in, help out with anything they could. They were just doing battle royals, and then when I finally came up to them, they were like, did we do something wrong? I'm like, no, I'm here to introduce myself. And if you're going to be here, a part of this show, then you're going to treat me like anybody else in this locker room. We're not different, and we're the same. And, you guys have been here. I just came over to tell you guys I have something big planned for you guys next show. Thank you for all your help, and I'm glad that you guys decided to come along and call this place home. And then last month, I had a great tag team with them, and they were so grateful because they told me, that we haven't been to any other promotion besides our home one in Sparta, New Jersey, that the owner was just so open to just talk to the little guys. We're all little guys, man. We're not making millions of dollars off this crap. We're doing what we do, and we love to do what we do.
Yeah, and I know you don't know us, but allow us to tell you that We've been doing this now for 2 years. We're about to have our 2-year anniversary show on June the 5th.
Hell yeah.
And thank you. And through this show, Keith and I have made friends with a lot of promoters. And the thing is, we've gotten the opportunity to actually call professional wrestling on a weekly show that 3WA puts on in Quakertown. And through this show, I've gotten opportunities by another promoter to actually live my dream of ring announcing. I always wanted to ring announce.
Awesome.
So, I mean, if Keith and I did not do this show, neither one of those opportunities would have happened. And so we're humble. We're just as humble as you are to be part of something that we all love in this room. Everybody in this room loves, and that's professional wrestling. To that end, I'm going to now ask you some kind of out-of-the-box questions.
Absolutely.
And that would be, if you could book yourself in a match with anybody, alive or dead or not, or whatever, or if they're still active, is this something that could possibly really happen? Whatever. Or a tag match, whatever you want to do. If you could book yourself in a match, who would it be and why?
Obviously, I'll give you two, just because I have it in my mind and it's just great, and that just popped in. I know for one, and everybody has asked me that a lot. If I could just have one match against Eddie, that would be everything to me. It would prove that, hey, Uncle Eddie, I did it.
Yeah.
Thank you for allowing me to do it. Thank you for being my inspiration. That would be everything. And honestly, I know the intergender matches happen here and there, but if I could have a tag team match, it would be against the Hardy Boys. And the only other person that I want next to me would be my daughter. 100%,
wow.
100%. I'd want me and my daughter to tag.
You and your daughter versus the Hardys.
Absolutely. That's what I want.
I absolutely love that answer. That's awesome. Professor, you got any comment for that answer? Those answers?
Yeah, I think those are great answers. I've read your Uncle Eddie's book. I've read it a couple of times, and I feel like wherever he is, I really think, obviously I didn't know him anywhere near as well as you do. I just know him through his words and what he put out there. But I think the picture he painted of himself and the picture you paint of yourself, I think wherever he is, I think he's very proud of you.
Thank you so much, man. I appreciate that. And someone else told me that not too long ago as well. So thank you so much. It means the world, like I know which book you're talking about. And I see things and still to this day, like I always run into like guys like Justin every now and again at shows. And I talk to HC Loke, who actually shared the locker room with them. And they look at me and they're like, hey man, you just keep doing what you're doing, brother, because people that you inspired you, they'd be proud of you, man. They'd be proud of you for what you're doing. That's all I need to keep going.
Whoever said keep doing what you're doing, listen to that. I'm sure that's not I'm sure that's not going to be the last time somebody says keep doing what you're doing, because in this entire interview, all I want to tell you is keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it, brother.
I love it. My last question for you, unless Keith has any, after I'm done, is fill in the blank. The greatest wrestling match of all time was.
The greatest wrestling match of all time.
We get different answers every time, right, Keith?
Yeah, people don't realize how fucking hard this is.
It is hard, especially for a wrestler and
it is.
And a promoter, and he's both. So
as much as I love all of Eddie's big main event things, the one that I sat there and I was like, that's what wrestling is. That's what moments like that would have to be Shawn Michaels and Taker at Mania. Both of them.
Yeah.
Both of them. And like I said,
waiting for that.
Oh yeah, both of them.
It's phenomenal.
At the end of the day, and everybody says that too, when they ask me. I don't know if you were going to ask me or not, but I'll throw it out there. Everybody says, hey man, in your opinion, who's the greatest wrestler of all time? I said my absolute favorite wrestler of all time was Eddie Guerrero, but the best wrestler in the world to me, to lace up a pair of boots, will always be the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels. So, when you have
hard to argue that.
It is
ring with Undertaker, and they just told a story, had a match, had everybody waiting for more. That's what wrestling is. That's it. That's it right there.
It's hard to argue with that one. That's one that, when I ask that question, that's one that's brought up often.
Yeah.
A lot of times it depends on the age of the guy, right? Because if I have somebody in his 20s, He might not. I mean, he might not have seen that match as much as we have,
or appreciate it as much as we.
Yeah.
or appreciate it as much as we have. Exactly. And if you get somebody my age, I might start talking about WrestleMania 3. But I'm just saying
Right.
I love that question. What were you saying?
I said I agree with you. That's absolutely, like I said, like again, like there was matches that you look at and you like to this day, like I told you guys earlier, like I watch Eddie matches, and there's things that to this day, like when I feel like my daughter had like just a mental block in her training, I'll look back and I'm like, there it is. Eddie was telling me right there. This is what you do to correct that problem. Like you look at the Kurt Angle versus Eddie, or Eddie versus Brock, or Eddie versus anytime he versus Dean Malenko or Benoit,
Rey Mysterio,
or Ray or Jericho. Like he was in so many phases of life that he taught you different things in different eras of time.
People make fun of it all the time, but I don't know why, because it was one of the best matches I've ever seen. The whole storyline was where he took on Rey Mysterio in the ladder match for custody of Dominic. That whole thing.
Well, because of the storyline was the issue there. Nobody criticized the performance of the performers. Everybody criticized the, you put custody of a kid in a ladder match. That's not very tasteful.
But I mean, think about it though, and I get that. But if you think about it, right? Why was anybody? I don't know. I won't say everybody, and I like the reason I won't say everybody is because I don't speak for everybody. But me, I wasn't excited. I saw the match, and then I'm like, oh man, they hooked me. Why was it the whole crew from Jackass versus Sami Zayn this past year? The storyline makes no sense. It doesn't need to happen. But the minute they get that hook and sinker, it doesn't matter what you believe. If they get you to watch the show the next day, as dumb as it is, they've done their job.
Yeah, that's why we say people that want to like buy a ticket to WWE and go, I'm gonna boo Roman Reigns, and that'll show them. I'm like, no, you bought the ticket. That's all they care about.
That's it.
You're done. You're done. You spend the money, you lose. They win.
Roman's job is to make you hate him and boo. And if you weren't a real fan of Roman Reigns, you could be a fan of WWE and not be a fan of Roman Reigns. If Roman Reigns is the main event and you had a sliver of anything that he would wrestle for a title and have all championships like it's going now, if you really didn't like him, you wouldn't go. But because they got you hook and sinker and you want to see him get his butt kicked, like we used to want to watch Mayweather get his butt kicked, and you buy a ticket, it's a done deal. They've already sold you on the product.
Well, let me tell you something about myself, my friend. I always root for the heels.
Yeah,
I have my entire life.
I have my guys.
It started with Roddy Piper and Randy Macho Man Savage, and I have rooted for the heels my entire life in wrestling, in movies, in TV shows. Now I know 9 times out of 10 they lose, especially in movies, because usually the bad guy gets but every once in a while I get a heel win. So that's me.
And that's perfectly fine too. Like I think Jericho said it once, and like Jericho's like, hey man, I don't want to be heel for this, or whenever he first Fandango, right? Like, why is it happening? And everybody also was thinking leading up to the match, why is this happening?
Right.
The purpose was Jericho get the heat and get the booze. That's what he wanted to do. He ended up doing what he does best and being a heel, and everybody wanted him to win even as a heel, and he still put over a new guy.
Right. And you ever hear the story? You ever hear him tell the story of that match that he was in the back all flipping out, and the guy he runs into is the Undertaker?
And he tells him, bro, you got a spot at WrestleMania.
Right. Bro, you're on the card. So do whatever they want you to do.
Yeah.
He's like, how am I going to do it? He's flipping out back there. How am I going to do this? And he's like, you're on the card.
Yep.
So go do what they want you to do.
Yep.
And then, and I bring up the, when they were talking to him in the back about the, what was it, the Royal Rumble that he got eliminated by Maven.
There it is.
She was on the other foot there. He was like, are you, he's back there. He's like, are you effing kidding me?
That, like I said, I think I mentioned it a little bit earlier. And kicked it into high gear. Not too long ago, she was able to meet Maven, and it all happens by all the time. We were actually up after a indie show that we had did for shout outs to Keith Zimmer and Jim Olbert and NTW. Like we were cleaning up my ring. They rented our ring for the night, and we were just cleaning. And at the time, it was winter, so it was cold outside. We usually have our ring at our house when it's nice out, and we just train outside. It's just nicer. But I told my daughter, I'm like, hey, get in here and just do some Ranas real quick. She does Rana. She does all the high stuff. And she did, and Maven saw it. And we weren't even doing it for Maven. We were just trying to get 5 minutes of ring time because it was the winter and we couldn't put the ring up. So then, Maven pulls. We went up to Maven to get a picture and a signature and all that. And he goes, "Hey, this your dad?" And he goes, "Oh, you're doing a great job. Don't stop doing what you're doing."
Right.
And he told her.
Another person told you that. See.
And he grabbed my daughter and said, "Hey, when you hit 18, I'm going to make sure that you get at least a chance." And that just lit up her world. And she knew that it was time to go and it was time to train harder than we ever have before. When daddy tells you something, it can mean this much. But Maven tells you something, it's like, holy crap, I've made it. So,
Right.
Well, listen, man, we're going to get you out of here, but
thank you.
It was an absolute pleasure to get to know you. It was an absolute pleasure to hear all these stories, and not only all the stories, but like what you have going on with for in wrestling, what you have going on with Frontier, what you have going on your daughter, passing the torch kind of thing. That's brilliant. That's awesome. And Keith and I wish you nothing but the best. And you need to let me know. You need to let me know when I can come check out a Frontier. If I can make it.
Absolutely. I'll send you guys every single poster from now on, too, guys.
If I can make it to June 4th, my man, I will definitely try.
Absolutely,
it's not that far a trek for me.
Thank you, man.
Keith and I always try to support local wrestling as much as we possibly can. Professor, you got any parting gifts, my friend?
Yeah.
Oh. Did he
lose him?
I think so.
We lost.
Keith!
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
I hear you.
Okay, it refreshed. Well, thank you for coming on the show first and foremost. I think you're one of those really special people that we've had on here. I love your attitude. I love everything you're doing. And, for people that tell you, oh, you're not doing it the old school way. Here's the thing. How many old school promoters are still in business? And some of that is their own fault. They wouldn't leave the top spot when they should have. Some of it is stuff that wasn't their fault. The economy fell out on Bill Watts, or Bill Watts might still be running today. But the bottom line is there's a lot of ways to skin the cat. And I know some old school guys that are doing exactly what you do, trying to build up their roster, trying to train people, trying to pass it on. So to me, I think trying to say you're doing it wrong, you're still in business, you're still wrestling, you're still getting other people out there. I don't see what you're doing wrong in any of that.
Thank you, guys.
So just keep doing what you're doing.
Hey, let this not be the last time we talk, guys. I've had such a good time. I honestly can, but then it's not to blow smoke or anything like that. I love everybody else I've done interviews for, but this has honestly been the most fun I've had in an interview, hands down. Absolutely. Anybody watching the show? Anybody watching the show? Absolutely. Anybody watching the show? Keep tuning in, man.
We appreciate that, brother. Our audience continues to grow, and we're very humble about that. But the only thing we ask you in return, man, is not only keep in touch with us, but also if you know anybody that could benefit from coming on here and telling their story.
Absolutely. I got a list for
you. send them our way. And and we are booked straight through July.
Okay.
With guests every Sunday night, but we can accommodate. We can figure it out.
Absolutely,
and
man. I got a list.
Like today, dude. Normally we do it on 6 o'clock. I threw 7 o'clock at you, man, because I was.
It was cool. I got it.
I was in Philadelphia. I literally pulled into Palmerton at 6:30, and I was scrambling around to try to get ready for you. But I'm glad that we had it, and I'm glad we got to talk to you today because it's been an absolute thrill ride. And let me tell you, 6 months down the road or so, you want to do it again? Well, we can
absolutely sign me on.
We can do it.
Anytime you guys have space for me, even if it's just to be another extra guy to talk, sign me on, please. Because listen, I've watched your other interviews too, and if anybody that's related is trying to get into wrestling, watching this right now, anybody that's gonna watch it later on, take this from Miguel Del Barrio. If you don't shoot your shot, you're never gonna be anywhere in this business. You gotta go for it all. And shows like this is the reason new talent, talented talent that doesn't get used, find a spot. Someone that comes on your show might be seen by a promoter and go, hey, I want that type of attitude, or I want that person on our show. It would be thanks to you guys at this show. You guys need to know you guys are just as important to this business as anybody else doing promotion in this business. Because if we don't get more names and more talent out there and what we're about, how do we get seen? How do we get heard of? So thank you guys for doing what you do. And I appreciate you guys still have an oldie like me still coming on the show to just be able to be someone different for a day. So thank you.
Thank you.
Brother, I love hearing that, and I love you for saying that. That's awesome, and that's all we want to do. We love this business. And I mean, I've been a fan for 40 years. Keith's been a fan for 30 years. And you know, between that, we're just trying to make it a better place from here on out. This show was built out of us just wanting to sit around and talk wrestling, but what it has become, we couldn't be more thrilled about. And we've gotten to meet all kinds of people, men and women, promoters, wrestlers, referees, ring announcers. It's been an absolute thrill ride. And we're gonna keep this boat rolling as long as we have lungs, as long as we have air in our lungs and blood pumping through our hearts, man.
Well, just know Miguel Del Barrio and Frontier will always have you guys' back. Thank you for doing what you do and giving opportunities for guys that need it.
Absolutely, my friend. Professor, for the professor, I'm the big Albowski. He is Miguel Del Barrio. Check him out for Frontier Wrestling on all social medias. Find out he's got a big event coming up in here in Pennsylvania on June the 4th, Saturday, June the 4th. So check him out. And you'll get all the information that you can get on where you get tickets and all that cool stuff. We are around the turnbuckle, and we are out of here. Miguel, don't go anywhere, my friend. We'll see everybody next Sunday, 6 o'clock.
Be safe out there, everybody.
Don't forget to subscribe and share this post, and we'll talk to you guys next week.